Island.
The Chinese HRE matchup. So far, I think every time we've seen this has went the way of the HRE. Can Beasty go against expectations? Can he slay the bee?
Yeah, one thing we noticed right off the bat is already onto that lumber camp with Chinese, gonna get that IO out to supervise it, and B surprisingly didn't go for the typical straggler openings that you will see at times from HRE. So just going ahead and getting that lumber camp down a little early will need a drop off before he can get his dock going.
That's interesting is like in this situation, B just pulled more villages, right? So like he should have a slight edge in how quick he can get the initial boat out. But like it's more to the fact that when you're up against the Chinese, if you don't pull 2 villages, you're going to be a mile behind. Like watch the bar here and then...
Yeah, and not only that, B dropped his a little late. He would have been able to start building his right off the bat if he went to the straggler trees, but instead, and that is why he's going double dock opening. All right.
Yeah, that's why you bring 2, because you have to. Because if you are doing it simply to rush 1 up, remember, you're building 125% build speed, right? The first villager is a full build, and then every additional villager is worth a quarter.
Being able to inspire that eco, it's 40% compared to 20 over on the side of Beasty. So B will have a little bit of an advantage in that regards. We'll have that 2 docks and has more than enough wood to go ahead and start pumping those fishing boats out of them.
Yeah, and in a standard 6 villager start, pulling 2 villages like that as the HRE would feel bad because you're losing out buffing. But we have to remember this is a 12 villager start, and prelates, if I recall correctly, it's still 8 that they can sustain. So you've already got 4 surplus that are normal villagers, right? Whenever you see this gold on them, think of them as a 1.4 villager. Everything else is just a 1.
Yeah, and then not only that, you're able to start grabbing that shoreline fish, which is, the best food gathering in the game for your villagers. Very, very short travel time for the drop-off as with that dock placements right next to those shoreline fish. So very, very good job by 3DB, not really losing out with that villager pulls, just how you said.
Yeah, so these guys are like a 1.2. I feel like I'm doing some sort of dating website rating system right now. All the villagers are looking up like, bruh, none of us are at least a 2 out of 10? Come on.
1.2, 1.4.
I'm really picky, guys. I'm really picky. These fishing boats, though, I mean, they're like a 2. Okay, I've got some weird dating selections, clearly. But IO's now starting to come out, right? Like, I don't think Beasty's going to go for a Barbican. We've been waiting to see a Chinese player do something unexpected like that, but it feels like you just need additional officials, and the only way you're, of course, going to get that is if you go for the Imperial Academy.
Yeah, it's just they're too good. Buffing up your eco is just too strong comparative to a in-placement defensive structure that, it'll provide that bonus right off the bat, but usually these pros are so good at just going around the emplacement, going around that Barbican and going to, wherever the spot they need to and not headbutting into it like I see myself and a lot of lower elo people do.
Yeah, you can tell we're history nerds. We've learned from history. Oh no, they have a very strong impenetrable fort. We'll just go around it.
There you go. B already getting those resources. Looks like he is getting a little bit closer to that feudal age timing as Beasty does not quite have that same food in the bank.
Yeah, he feels like he's dragging behind a little bit of this, but you kind of expect to a certain degree, right? Like, the Imperial official is going to give you 20% extra, but on the other side, B, with this double dot play and the fact he's getting a 40% buffer on that wood line, it feels more desirable. Actually, that being said, the more I think about it, like, you've got 1 prelate over 12 villages, so you can only cap 8. I think they're neck and neck at this stage, at least at this stage, because you have 15 villages with a 20% extra drop-off, so you're essentially got, like, double in terms of that efficiency factor. So that's an interesting thing to think about. It's someone that we usually forget because we're so used to seeing 6 villager starts.
Yeah, it's definitely one that I think as just you explaining that's one of the things that people are like, wow, maybe Chinese does have a little bit of an extra leg up at this certain point. Obviously, once that chapel finishes, that's going to provide that eco to the whole entire wood eco.
Yeah, people are like, why? KB has a point. They're going to like go play the custom 12 villager mode. Like, this feels pretty good. And then they're going to like click play on this replay again. And they go, oh, but the moment you hit feudal, oh.
Yeah. Then it kind of turns on around. But we got a bunch of docks out of either of these players, it is looking like a huge water investment. Feudal Age is finishing up for both players at essentially the exact same time. Resources in the bank, and we're going to start seeing those ships queued on up.
More being queued for Beasty on the opening, though. Double Springle coming from him, so he'll just have the edge. And this was a little bit weak to just have this one Springled already. Like, he could try to play a little bit more turtly and bait into a demo, because obviously, like, the stand opening is going to be Springleds. We talked about this in a previous series. The only time you tend to open Archer ship now is if you have a tech advantage of easily 30 seconds, right? If you're mirrored like this, you cannot go Archer ship first.
All right. That is a good point. I'm on the one that the Springled ships, as you win the water fight, they're more effective in taking down the docks. Obviously, the Archer ships a little bit more effective in taking down those groups of fishing boats, but the Springled is really what's going to allow you to full deny water on the other side.
Sure, but like one Springled is not going to kill a dock. Unless like, it could, but like if that happens in your game, there's bigger concerns, right? One Archer ship with no defensive units on the other side, even if it doesn't kill fishing boats, it can idle them, right? And with that AoE spread damage, that RNG factor of the Archer ships is kind of mitigated when you have 5, 6, or 7 fishing boats on one spot. Oh my god. Get out right now.
That's one of those, he's just riding on into the scene. He's like, oh no, turn around. Big U-turn here, both Hulks turn. BC already queuing up Demo, already queuing up an Archer ship himself, and he is having that military prowess on the sea, but B, he's dropped the barracks. BC's already spotted this out as he just had a scout circle before the men-at-arms or spearman pops out.
I'm telling you, man, that one ship going in felt like the Austrian Navy in real life. Small in comparison to the other side. But the crazy part is, like, B has got a lot of Navy building up behind this, not just the military you're talking about. I think this Rax play isn't going to be about real men-at-arms. Like, he's pumping 1 or 2, but it's mainly because you know horsemen are coming from Beasty, as we could see.
Yep. Just gonna have probably 1 or 2 of those spearmen chill in his eco, nice 1 or 2 in the wood line, 1 or 2 on the gold, and yeah, gets a little bit of extra damage. And we also know that B, known for pulling out those shivs and circling around those horsemen and not allowing them to escape with their lives.
No, Dabston, you can't do that with HRE. That's not a 1 that's pulling out their shiv. That's a 1.4. You gotta be stingy if you want to play HRE, my friend. That's why I always lose. Double demo already for Beasty, though. So he really wants B to come to him. In fact, if you check, this is a cool thing. Look where BC stationed those demo ships. It's right near the central island, right near the relic. Just out of vision. And it's a really cool play because B's not going to bring a fishing ship to the main battle, so this could completely catch him off guard.
Yeah, it's almost like that flanking tactic where if B steps in a little too far, his Hulks will not have an escape path. The demos will circle right back around. Gonna be hard for one single Archer ship to 3-shot 2 different demos.
BC, like the cool thing he's done here is he's got an additional 2 demos with the main fleet. So that's why this is likely to succeed, is B's just going to see those demos and go, yeah, that's the threat. Just address that. He'll become tunnel visioned and will not expect this flank.
It almost seems like B's content, was content. Now he's starting to push up on water a little bit, but you can see the heavier transition onto the land. Almost seems like he's just utilizing this water to maybe try to get a bigger timing push with these men-at-arms, how he saw how much damage that 5 did earlier. And here it is. This could be that spot that we were talking about, trying to deny this fishing. Beasty just kind of baiting in.
He's blind.
Demos circling back around. They're getting into that spot that we were talking about.
No way to run for both sides. He's coming in. Like, look, he's just herding him like he's sheep right now. Demos hit hard here. And that's going to be a forced retreat. B likely to lose 3 ships on the exit.
BC trying to chase those down. 1 of them gets taken out. 3 more are at 1 single shot left, and another couple demos chasing now.
This is insane. The amount of demos BC's already pushing. B's in trouble.
Yep, B pulling fishing boats, trying to heal up the Hulks. Demos still on the way. Archer ships turning, but demos are going to land on the fishing. And, first one didn't land, but the second one does.
Demo ship return fire is going to be unsuccessful. Now, even though Beasty didn't get that big wall, that big punch, it's the idle time. It's the fact that Springles are shooting at him as he retreats. And meanwhile, while that's happening, these horsemen are forcing humongous idle time in the back of his base.
Yeah, the couple minute arms that B sent not really having the same effect that the archers and horsemen have. B losing out on the water here and losing out on the land, as those archers definitely paid some dividends.
Beasty, I love that reaction. Okay, I don't want to keep addressing this at home. Immediately get the outposts up. Maybe even thinks about a little bit of stone for hand cannon slits. Long term, this men-at-arms problem will be solved. For the time being, it's going to be a little bit annoying, but considering the idle that Beasty achieved on the other side, he can afford to be inefficient in his backside now.
Yeah, but all during this time, that's a good amount of wood invested in the outpost. That's a good amount of idle time for those wood villagers as well. Looking like the men-at-arms are still there, still swinging on all of these vills, and Beasty doesn't have the military to attend to this and doesn't respect this, hasn't pulled the vills, and just now decides to.
He's distracted because there was another clash. B was threatening with multiple demo ships, and now Beasty once again going for that wide wraparound. Once again, he turns into the sheepdog here. Archer ship's going to be exposed. There's a heavy dive, and the funnel through. B blocked out by his own ships, unable to gap close with the demos. Limited damage done.
Limited damage indeed, but still playing that defensive game, able to have his ships pop out right next to where this battle is going on. So that's the only benefit right now coming for B, who looks like he's slowly pushing this back, but needs to worry about other demo ships coming in and might need to just get this fleet up himself. It's actually 11 Springled ships to 10 now, as playing that defensive game has benefited him a little bit, as well as raiding that wood.
Yeah, and that final demo that came in from B, it lowered the health of 2 of the ships, which I think instantly got sniped there, which is why now B has the lead in terms of those ships. He still has a decent amount of men-at-arms as well. Beasty really got thrown off by this, distracted, and it did shrink his eco lead a little bit, but can't deny the numbers, right? 53 to 58. We also have to consider the fact that B has munched so deep into that wood line, I don't really think he's getting buffed much anymore from the Archon.
No, and not only that, Barbican of the Sun being dropped by Beasty, so we'll add that extra level of protection, as well as giving him Song Dynasty. Does get the buff just because of lumber camps are all inside it.
Yeah,
but
like some players are mauling right now, like,
line.
drop a new lumber camp. What are you doing, noob B? It's because the buff of 40% is much better than the loss of resources from walking.
And there it is, Barbican protecting up that wood line. That was that main damage that B was able to just find. So this next time the men-at-arms step forward won't be as effective, as well as Beasty moving to a different gold vein. So when these men-at-arms do that typical pathing that they have, well, the first gold vein won't find any damage.
Meanwhile, these horsemen, they still have a lot more fluidity in comparison, right? And B doesn't have as many static point defenses. Those outposts as Barbican. Sure, it's a heavy investment now for Beasty, but it means that he can just invest more into aggro and less into defense. And speaking of an aggressive unit, one we've gotten used to seeing on land with the Chinese, but less frequently here, Beasty's making Chuginu.
Military ships starting to push up for B, thinking that this might be his time. Those 6 more men-at-arms just running right past the Barbican. Definitely just got shift-clicked and...
Fool me once, not twice, right? Okay, he's going to back away. Beasty was doing it again with more demos this time. He was going for the northern flank. Like, fool me once, shame on you, but how many times can it actually work? The entire fleet is just held hostage here. A heavy hit into the front line. Beasty finding maximum impact there. Half the fleet are down under. They have sunk into the bottom.
And I'm confused. B had enough to one-shot in another demo.
What?
Is he has enough to one-shot the demos. He must be distracted somewhere else. But Beasty, he just wiped half of B's fleet. He should be able to just sit here with the rest of these Springled ships and just push forward into the rest of this water eco.
Beasty out of nowhere walks up and says, welcome to Davy Jones' locker. B will be able to somewhat hold for a moment the demo ship threat looming, but demos are constantly on the way. Beasty sustaining 7 at any given time, making their way across the battlefield. You can't help but feel B could easily be 1, maybe 2 minutes if he's lucky from losing full control of water.
was able to get a decent few demos out from the dock that's near this defensive point that BC's at, but you can already see how the numbers are starting to tilt towards BC with 80 military pop compared to 57, continuing to climb on up, and more horseman raids coming in onto that inspired wood line, but B has found out the gold vills from Beasty.
I'm pretty sure that these fishermen have like some strike going on because they were not helping there. They were hindering. The ships couldn't even move away. That's why the demo ships continue to find such great bang for buck in these assaults. Archer ship count is pretty much just gone. That's the final one sunk for B. So he has no answer to this. This is the end of the road. B needs to switch the script because he can no longer rely on the seas.
Yeah, the seas have been fully taken. The question here is going to be, will BC decide to start that water trade like we were talking about, take more of that map control? But for now, all he cares about is he knows he has the eco lead, denying all of this fishing, as well as compounding that with Song Dynasty.
Now you have to wonder, like, what does B have left, right? He's got a lot of resources. You go for a Castle Age all-in, but without this food source, you can't go for a Burgrave play. He has to go for the standardized Regnits. This really plays into Beasty's hand. He's got Horsemen out in the field. Chigani been built up as well. Grabbing Relics should not be as cut and dry as you'd think for B in these circumstances.
No, not by any means. Still trying to cause some damage, still trying to cause some idle time, but at this point, Beasty just feeling really, really happy about the way that a couple of those water fights just went.
Bro, I love that. Like, them ships head in, like, not worth my time, right? Just one of you go deal with this. I'm going to keep holding him hostage in case he ever gets a looming fantasy of water being achievable for him again.
Chukanu and Horseman just clearing up those few minute arms for 3DB. And good timing to do that, as no upgrades will be able to come through on those, as they had just lost their life. Next little small grouping coming through, and Beasty, all he really needs to do, transition off of wood a little bit onto some heavier food, get up to the Castle Age himself, because that's the only way he really has an opportunity to lose this game, is not respecting the HRE castle.
B needs to win. Vin Diesel, because if he's not fast and furious here with this Castle Age, he's going to be out of this game. Like, Chugan knew they got up to 20, 30 of them. This men-at-arms play isn't going to be as impactful as you'd otherwise think.
Nope, especially not with all the outposts that BC is able to just jump inside, house himself up, has those Chukanu, has the Horsemen as well. And so if that men-at-arms mass isn't up at more than double digits, then not really going to have any effective trades. And as you see now, BC's fine with this. Yeah, he loses a couple Horsemen. Yeah, he might lose a couple Archers and Chukanu, but his eco is untouched still. I mean, he's up 27.
It feels just trivial. Like, look how quick that was. 29 villages. Gone in a flash was your advantage. BC now teched up. Chuginu upgrades can come through. He can begin to do more than just tickling. Not to mention the fact that, like you said, trade could be on the horizon for BC. It feels impossible for B unless he can go for like multi-TC or somehow sneak back underwater. Both of them just don't seem feasible, though.
Yeah, this men-at-arms timing is proving to be a little bit more beneficial than it seemed like. Beasty deleting some of his military ships, just creating some more population space for himself. Men-at-arms slowly getting cleared up, finding a couple more kills. You can see the destroyed value, but it is not going to be enough in my eyes, as the writing is already on the wall. Beasty clearing this up, and then we'll just have too much eco to pump out whatever units he decides. And really, it doesn't matter which ones he decides. He's got crossbows, he's got Chukanu, and that's the main stuff that he will need as his base.
You can see how high the Chinese taxes really are. They're willing to be beaten in the face, but they cannot stop working, or they can never make ends meet. I mean, it's just absurd to watch how ineffective that men-at-arms play was by B at idling eco. BC just shrugged at it. And like you mentioned, he's already got Chukanu, got crossbow loaded. Also, by the way, units kind of look a little bit similar, right? Never quite sure if I'm being attacked by 12 crossbows here or 6.
Yeah, it makes it even harder when there's the mass gets even bigger than that and you're trying to micro it during the fight. But definitely correct. Hard to identify the difference between those. Similar to, in my eyes, the Rus military fishing ships and all those. They all look very, very similar.
Yeah, there's been some complaints about that. People begging, pleading. Can we please change some of these? Now, Chinese definitely come to mind, not just for the Chiganu factor, but the ships. Archer ships compared to Springalds, also the other civs, just feels so difficult to identify in a giant blob. But blobbing is occurring on land here now for Beasty. You saw the amount of stables he's dropped. Lancers on the way. B, sure, he's got the potential around the heavy maces play with the men-at-arms, but what he doesn't have is an ability to choose where they fight. Look at the map. No walls have been placed. When you play men-at-arms like this, you need to create funnel points, or the flood-through will just kill you.
Yeah, and Beasty just moving out over to the side of Bees to get that extra fishing, as he is probably getting closer to you know, dominating his complete side as far as that deep sea fish goes, getting a little less efficient going out to the farther fish. And I do believe he has started some water trade.
I do believe BC wants to return the favor from game 1 here. I'm noticing a lot of workers on that stone line right now. He sees this proxy base. Perfect location to just drop a keep and invalidate B's proxy right in front of your own economy.
Yeah, big, massive men-at-arms, though, starting to stack up. We're up at 27. Beasty, he's got a good amount of crossbows, though, himself, but if those crossbows get closed on by, gap closed by the men-at-arms...
No, because they're being baited here.
Nope, baited in by the Chukanu and just absolutely kited out yet again. Beasty, game's just easily in hand, just playing this slow and methodically. The only way he loses is making a huge mistake and doubling the eco right now with 3DB.
I like to go to the W's here. Why are you running and where are you running? Because ideally you want to be going back towards your base. Instead, he's forced to commit in. Maybe he snipes 1 or 2 villagers, but the rest get cleaned up. You know, B's goal here is to reach 40, 50 men-at-arms and dive. Go full divide. It's the only option left when Beasty is almost doubling him up on eco count.
Yeah, and you know, that doubling up is mainly on the sea. As far as the landmass, villagers have been getting taken out by both of these players and masses of losses on either side, but just looking like Beasty's actually getting idled out quite a bit. But this is one of those that at the end of it, you're like, well, Beasty still has a huge mass and Beasty still has the eco, so it's not gonna look too great. Men-at-arms still closing, still getting kills, but Beasty playing this secure, walls out the trade as well.
Hey, look, these things are allowed this round, so finally we're going to see one. I think, is this our first? This might be our first stone wall we've seen so far in round 2. It's kind of surprising, actually.
Yeah, and Beasty's couple gold veins have been the main focal point from 3DB, but has those water trade ships going, and as we just saw, our awesome observer highlight 137 a pop.
Not bad.
And it's not just gold, we got wood and gold.
Yeah, the only thing you can't get on water is stone. That's why he's prioritizing that for the keeps. Like, everything else, like, he can afford to lose villagers. And speaking of that stone, it's finally being put to work. As expected, blocks out the proxy base and kind of slows down this men-at-arms crew, which, to be honest, has already been slowed down. Like, I checked that count about 2 minutes ago, and I'm pretty sure it was still at 33.
Yep, we actually see some land snakes mixed on in, and those are the things to worry about. If those land snakes get on top of the crossbow mass, just a few swings will obliterate the whole entire mass. Spread formation should be utilized, and they get on the villagers! Oh, 2 villagers left alive. That was a little too close for comfort. Even still, though, B would need 2 or 3 more of those to actually take down Beast's economy.
It was a costly loss on both sides, right? Like, you get wiped an army, several villages lost, but definitely B coming out worse for this. So many Lanks dead. You can see them by the yellow pantaloons. They kind of stand out a bit. The men-at-arms mass. At first, the beginning of that fight, I think there was an A-click, and it almost looked like BC had baited him to aggro onto crossbows, but it was all part of the plan. But still, throwing away that many Lanks to kill that many villages in this circumstance, I don't consider it a good exchange. Yes, he has got 4 relics on his side with Regnits, so you can somewhat afford to replace them, but there's no denying the fact that still B is clearly on the clock.
Yeah, and on the clock he has been for a while, it seems like. Ever since he lost the water, he needed to do something to get himself back into this game, to give himself an option, a chance to win this, and he tried everything he could. He tried to do what was logical, what was expected, but just is proving to not be enough, as Beasty now has a mass of 36 crossbows and will continue to climb.
Yeah, and so you can see B's only option is... Well, let's be honest, right? HRE only have one option. When it gets this deep in, it feels like you do anyway. Men-at-arms and Lanks gets a tale as old as time itself, or at least as old as Age of Empires 4. Problem is, with this many crossbows and the 2 nested bees pumped behind it, I don't think it's going to work out even remotely well in the next fight. I mean, B, sure, he sniped those villagers. It looked kind of sexy in that combat, but next time, I'd be surprised if he even kills a single unit.
Yeah, BC's actually at max pop, while B is now down at a measly 120. So as much as he'd like to think he's in this game, we can see by just the sheer numbers, Beasty, he's gonna be hitting Imp soon himself, and that's gonna be even scarier as Chinese Imp. Usually with the HRE, you're the first one hitting Imp. It costs cheaper, you hit Swabia, you got those relics in the bank, but not gonna be the case this game.
Yeah, I think that's the point where B will be saying it's a maybe just the end of the road for him, because it's the upgrades alone, right? The extra health as well. It feels like you need even more Lanks to reach your enemy, which he does have a lot of them, but you know, I'm just waiting to see how many Nesta Bs BC can really sneak in here. Like you mentioned, he is pop capped, so he has no way of actually pushing them out right now. So maybe it's time to throw away a few of those units.
Yeah, and I mean, throwing away the units, is, even if it's not a 1-for-1 trade, still going to be fine and beneficial for Beasty, as he has 2-to-1 on the eco.
Kill me. Kill me. We must make way for the bees. The wraparound comes in. Lanks with the backstab here, but the staggered formation from BC trying to minimize the casualties. Still going to be a fight that favors B, but remember, BC's been pop capped behind this, so it's a big whoop-de-freaking-doodah as he remains at 200.
Yeah, you can tell BC using that kind of StarCraft micro split there with the crossbows, but will have that whole mass wiped up. Good thing for him. He'll be able to remass back up quite quickly. Needs to get the production to do so and have everything behind it. I see 8 Lancers and only 12 crossbows on the field now.
Yeah, but the Lancers are kind of key here, right? Like, the men-arms can still be a nuisance, but like B's flowing a 50-50. These Lanks won't fare as well against the Lanks, against the Lancers, right? And the cool thing with the Lancers is before you get cleaved back, you can just pull away. This raid.
Ooh! Oh, that's so satisfying to see. I just love it.
Oh, he might not be in the game, but the first word that comes to mind is salami. Sliced like salami anyway.
But once those Nesta Bees fire down on the land snakes, they are just not as tanky as those men-at-arms. Will easily be wiped out by those, but B is starting to get some decent trades here. Decent trades might not prove to be enough.
Bacon slicer time, boys. Body blocks on the way through. It's an absolute massacre as Beasty loses almost another 20.
This is wild on how B is trying to find himself back in it, and if he keeps landing things like this, he might just be able to.
I mean, right now, we've got, like, all we care about is where are there still villagers for Beasty. Think that's the detail that matters here. There's still 18 Lanks partying in his base. Well, there's a few villagers. Men-at-arms will take the solos. Lanks are looking for the mass.
And that's the whole granary eco of BC that he was just investing into. Absolutely wiped. He does have a ton of food income still from the sea, but obviously he was wanting more of it. And he is starting to struggle a little bit here as far as his home base goes on the land.
Well, I think Beasty understands what he needs. He needs more keeps. So most of his villagers are towards the shoreline gathering stone right now. If B ever realizes this, it'll be maximum cleave. Oh, so, sorry, is there still a few people here that think that they can exist? Lanks say no.
Yeah, this is just more and more Beasty just thinking maybe he was in too good of a spot, and not one of these to be taken lightly. You can't just forget about your eco and let it go untouched, even with the lead that you may have.
These Lancers, I mean, they'd be great if they could just kill eco, but they just keep running into conundrums. A few of them are making their way in, but always chased by these men-at-arms. HRE men-at-arms, of course, being quicker than your normal ones makes this problematic for Beasty.
Yeah, not only are they quicker, they got those heavy maces too, so trade even more effectively against those armor units as well.
What we have to keep in mind is, right, like, if both sides are trading, like, a similar amount of villagers, it does still favor Beasty because he has the docks, right? We can't underrate the fact he is actually sitting on a lot of additional resources compared to B. But, you know, if B keeps this up, I do see a world in which it's feasible for him to pull this back, right? Because once there's no more villagers to kill on land, the amount of men-at-arms and Lanks he's got, he can start just torching all the production buildings. So even if you have all this food, wood, and gold to expend, you need buildings to use them in.
Yeah, my thing is, too, is at this point, he should know that Beasty had to essentially delete a lot of his population on the sea.
Yeah.
Because if not, you can't field the same army on the land. So that actually does give him an opportunity to potentially try to deny water, take back water. You know, there aren't going to be 8 military ships to immediately kill your mass that attempts to burn down a dock. And Beasty is on a very slow army with his main one up in the north. Still has those Lancers continuing to raid the base, though.
Always being chased by these longsworders, right? Like, when was the last time you saw 45+ Lansk in an HRE game? I think it's been a while.
And that is exactly what we're getting here now. Such an expensive unit, you don't usually see it, and that is what Beasty wants to drop to defend himself. It's the Great Wall Gatehouse coming into play. 4 villagers building it, not really sure exactly where, but he is going up to Imperial Age.
Yeah, this is actually brilliant because, like, this is the best solution against Lanks. The glass cannons, right? And now you've got to run into these nest of bees. Beasty, like, it's weird, it's shaky, but we cannot discredit the fact he's always been pop capped. He's always had surplus in reserve. And if this keep line fully goes up, B's entire comp doesn't work anymore.
Not at all, and his entire comp over here in this north, 3 nests of bees just take all of those men-at-arms down to about 10% health, getting their next fires on, and in a blink of an eye, all we see is a bunch of red bodies on the ground.
What makes this worse is, like, B now has to reinvest in more, and the tech up just came through, and that nest of bees, he stops just shy of running in range. So that's the only upside for him. But now, you're sitting on 60 Langsk, and there's only one area you can run through to get into BC's base. Well, there was one area, right? It's incredibly thin now due to those stone walls on the left side.
Yeah, not only that, it's going to give BC the exact vision whenever B does run in the base. Triple nest of bees, getting some good fires down, couple lanes getting taken out, but BC knows exactly where B's army is and exactly what B's army is.
This is a problem. Like, it will always be this way, right? B is going to struggle to make a good transition. He's full infantry. I know it says it in the tooltips, the HRE, but sometimes you need something else. He's trying to add a little bit of siege, but even that in small quantities isn't going to cut it. These are clock tower nest of bees. They don't die that easily.
Here we go. Looks like this main fight, this is B's last-ditch effort, but there's so much siege there.
There's no one here.
BC is getting revenge for the first game.
There's
B
no one
wants to
here.
find Bills. There's no one there.
Everyone went into their houses. They are safe from your oppression and the nest of bees. This is the worst part about this, Dab. You're running all these infantry through choke points. At some point, Beasty is going to get an S-tier cluster shot and wipe out most of this army.
Yeah, and there's no Vills on the wood line because he's getting all his wood from the water trade. He doesn't need Vills on wood. He doesn't need Vills on anything, really.
Run.
And
just get out. Just do a lap of the base. Don't even hang around. If you hang around and kill these villagers, the long way, I don't know. Like, he has to run.
You have to run right back to keep.
Go back the other way.
Oh my God! Nest of bee fires. That's what we've been waiting on, and there we can already see all those units at such low health. He does have the military numbers, but not for long.
The heavy hit straight in. The body blocks from BC delayed their arrival. That's enough to pretty much clean up the army. B, I would be surprised if this goes any longer. He's given us quite the bloody series, but Beasty is the indomitable beast in the late game.
Say that B has matched up Imperial Age timing. He's on this wood line. It's actually going to be able to chop through in just a second to find another hole in the wall, another place to actually get through, as his original spot has been stonewalled up by Beasty.
The problem is, if this turns into a wall-on-wall situation, do you favor the HRE, right? Because, like, we can't underrate the water side. I mean, I'll give credit to B creeping that one up, caught us off guard. It does give him a way of rebooming, but I still see a giant population issue here, right? The HRE have been at war for too long. 133. Beasty, meanwhile, consistently 200 pop cap.
42 of that are trade ships bringing back 270 resources a pop. And it's not like, you know, that's just this, you know, slow trade ships going on. There's a full line of these, and oh my gosh.
Meet the Lord of the Seven Seas here. The amount of trade, the amount of fish, he's always sustaining him. I mean, the other thing to keep in mind here is, right, like B, sure, he has these relics. He can get his hands on a decent amount of gold, but if he wants to continue this trend of Lanks and men-at-arms, that's not going to be enough. He's going to be needing to actively gather gold. That's a finite resource. This trade is not.
Nest of Bees firing down on that mass, trying to push forward. B has been spotted where Swabia was, where the chop through happened, and I'm sure Beasty is going to go deal with that quite quickly with the Lancers just taking down all those villagers as they pop out.
And now we'll ignore the army and the villagers and run all the way to the back, because I know you got woodworkers somewhere. Problematic, because now it drags B's attention elsewhere, while the small siege contingent begin to push in.
Yeah, and that's pushing in on his main gold vein up in the center that he was taking. There's obviously other golds on the map, but it's going to be harder and harder to deal with these Lancers coming through. Good choke point rally, though, by the Spears.
Yeah, and also you saw what B just done there, right? Oh, there's a gap in this wall? Thanks for telling me. He ran through. He's headed straight over to the farmland area because, of course, Beastie didn't pull villagers instantly rebuild. However, he did end up finding an opportunity to backstab. B went in for the stone. 4 Nest of Bees here. This should be an absolute massacre.
And the Vills pulled towards the Nest of Bees. As long as they can close the gap, they can just pull those torches on out.
Gatehouse. The Great Wall Gatehouse.
Oh, the Great Wall Gatehouse.
More like the Great Wall Great House right there. Barely gets away, because if that was an instant turnaround from Beastie, he loses all those villages, and all of a sudden, you're close to being tripled up when it comes to eco.
Yeah, again and again, we've kind of just seen this over. B staying at like under 200 pop, not able to get to that max pop limit, whereas Beastie just not ever dropping below it. Maximum Q filled on in. You see 15 Lancers just waiting to pop out, and now we're seeing some more Imperial Age upgrades as well.
Yeah, need those walls up. Springles can't counter us if they can't see us.
Nope, not at all. And there is one last gap, one last hole in the wall where B has chopped through. But once that is rewalled, or oh,
isn't that a shame that you've now got all these melee units and I've stepped on a wall? It'd be a shame if I started doing this all the time, huh? Oh wait, what do you mean you can go around?
Yeah, the unfortunate part about that wall is it's not fully walled up, so Men-at-Arms do the correct thing, jump right on inside and climb the walls themselves. But Beastie dropping up. Was that did he just drop Yuan Dynasty?
Yeah, he went Yuan, so he's bumped up now. The movement speed advantage is going to be there. Now this is where things get really perplexing, because the cool thing about the HRE is with all this infantry base, they have the marching drills, right? They have a better movement speed than other civs would. But now that's just been taken away, right? The gap is as big as it normally would be against any other civ.
Beastie has to delete half of his eco
really does.
to be able to match the B number. Like, that's his problem right now, is like he has 15,000 wood. You don't need any more wood. Just stop. Like, the hard part there is that's deleting traders, that's less gold, but he needs more of a military mass to just have that snowball.
Hear me out, hear me out. Just build a wonder on the island. What's he gonna do? Like, he literally can't get back on water. What's he gonna do? This room? Yeah, look, brilliant. There's loads of room there.
Oh, villagers have run out of the stone that B had gathered up. Has enough for 2 more keeps, but where are those keeps going to go? Looks like the next gold vein attempting to be reclaimed. Here's Men-at-Arms running into the fold to help on out with that mass and go towards the base of Beastie.
I mean, we have got bombards coming in. By the way, we've also... Why is he building a bow chat?
I misclick. I don't know.
Maybe does a Flying Dutchman code work in AoE 4? Is there someone I'm missing here? Uh-oh. I talked about these walls.
And it's not only the walls, that Great Wall Gatehouse firing down as well across. As if you get a little too close to the side, it will still fire. And villagers on that gold Nest of Bees.
That's a stinger right there. Now, the only upside that B has going for him right now is by taking away all this stone, he prevents the keep line from extending. He prevents extra walls coming in. And he is, at least as a result of that, keeping this opening to go in. Because everywhere else is just not accessible. B is now resorting to rams. Definitely a unit that's been buffed in the late game, but not really someone that he's doing so from a position of power, right? Building into this just really feels like a reactionary to what Beastie has laid on the play.
Yeah, it looks like Beastie, losing the Vills for Beastie, I find is a benefit for him. Compared to B, Not good for
You're a
him, as
monster.
he needs to keep this up. Yes, Beasty needs to just kill off his
They're
bills.
a burden. More mouths to feed. Oh, I can barely afford to feed you as it is. I've only got 3,000 food. Okay, obviously that's not how AoE4 works, but yeah, you're right. Like, we've seen this in the past. Players just over-ecoing 150, 160. I've even seen 170 in a competitive game before. It just leaves you relying on static defenses to end the game. And by the way, he can potentially build static defenses. I'm not sure. Did we actually restrict Stonewall Towers? I don't think they are. It just players never tend to build them.
Well, Beasty typically builds them, but I usually see that on HRE, not on his Chinese as
Well,
much.
that's Outpost, right? Like, I'm talking like the Stonewall Towers.
Stonewall Towers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I have no idea.
Because they were
That's one
nerfed
of
a while
those-
back. And like,
I find that one similar to the dock explanation you were talking about earlier. Even if they aren't banned, I think that the players are so used to like never build a Stonewall Tower, and they're frowned upon that I think that would be the big BM.
I just have to double check the rules. Like, I'm that person always looking for the loophole, because like we explicitly said in round 1, no keep stone walls or Stonewall Towers, right? So that you get in round 2, you're like, oh, are all these allowed? I'll double check the rules afterwards. I assume they're probably not. I think they had been tweaked by the devs though, but it's still kind of just a community tournament rule, almost like a gentleman's
They cost
agreement.
a little bit. They cost like quite a bit more. I think it's like 400 total resources. So you're basically like half a keep for a Stonewall Tower.
Yeah, so just go to keep.
Obviously,
you're
it's
Chinese.
not all stone. Yeah,
Come on, you're just Chinese.
exactly.
Go to keep.
But keep's not what he's looking to build. He is looking to build wooden fortresses, it seems, with how much wood he has in the bank over there as the Chinese.
Like, what can you build at this? I mean, you could... Okay, hear me out, right? AoE 4, it's a fun game. We're 40 minutes in, but why not take a break and just enjoy an expedition through a maze? Get the Palisades out. Make a nice little obstacle course for B to go through.
Oh, Beasty's trying to kite out these spearmen. It's just trash units being thrown. B, the little bit of siege he's been making has just immediately gotten taken out by Beasty. Throwing those fire lancers through and just sniping down the siege units. He's continuing to raid, continuing to raid, continuing to raid. I think it's just this war of attrition that finally might get to that point.
Beasty is that bombard warrior. That's right, they're coming in. He's already taking out the TCs. I'm sorry, I'm not going to fully commit to the Jar Jar. I once did, and I never will again. But hear me out. You've got all this wood. The one thing that ruins B's army is choke points. Why not just build houses everywhere?
You'll never get pop. You'll be like the Mongols. Won't have to worry about getting pop capped.
No. But it's not that, right? It's like they all run into a choke point, and then they get Nesta beat.
No. B doing a good job. Actually was able to keep these culverins alive. BC chased down those culverins with some lancers and knights. Well, knights just got taken down though before closing the gap there. And B, while he did almost lose his Swabia, emergency repairs utilized and still sitting there with his 4 landmarks.
I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I gave the nickname the Woodpecker to Avali for his wood yesterday. I guess, like, Beasty... Like, what's got more wood? I guess, like, he's the Amazonian princess, right? The Amazon's got a lot of wood in it. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, the Amazonian princess.
B going for the dock play, maybe trying to deny that.
But this is already Balchad.
Balchad was in queue.
Yep. He's got a second one queued up, by the way. Yeah, okay, that was a misclick. He is going to cancel that one. But this is... It's been such a long game. And you want B to kind of, like, have an opportunity because... Like, we love Beasty, but we also kind of, we hate the Chinese when they get to this stage. But I think there's no denying that although it's taken a very long time, it feels like there's only really one way this is going.
Yeah, it's felt that way for 30 minutes of this game now. But just Beasty has not been able to close this out yet. B's gotten some good trades, still continuing to have a military mass.
Oh, God. It's like on one side you have Lanks, but then the other you have Nesta Bees. And it's just so much easier to use Nesta Bees in this type of format. Like open field, nobs, they suck, right? But these type of choke points, I'm always going to side with the artillery.
Yeah, Beasty knows where B is hurting. It's on that gold. He's hitting that gold mine to the south. Yes, there's Regnance, but Regnance does not support the army that's coming out at 45 minutes in the game. You're going to need a lot more support than that. BC clearing up these units and pulling forward to drop another keep on this production as well.
Is this reminding you of a particular game we've seen today? Maybe a game 1 of this series?
He is definitely getting his revenge for game number 1. Keeps across the map, just a demoralizing way to have this victory, and another secret keep coming around, circling with those vills to drop on to the chapel farms.
And it's even going to end with the arrival of Fire Lancers as well. Beasty's now making that transition. You know, it's kind of funny how the first game, well, it was shooting a dead body. And funnily, as we began, is how it looks like we're probably going to end. B on his last legs. If he loses the forward infrastructure, he can't even afford to replace the army. He can't even reach pop cap as it is. Just look at that number. He hasn't even got maximum housing available.
Yeah, finally seeing some of these raids closing the gap, not being reacted to, and B, he is not going to be able to hold this for too much longer, as woodline denied, gold denied, stone denied, and the front side of his base has hand cannoneers that they can just take down everything in their path, as you see them shooting down that mangonel on the other side.
This is Meet the Spartans taught me it's Beasty's favorite way. Reach around and take it from the back, then reach around and take it from the front. But either way, they're always going to be taken. No way that B could stand up against the unlimited power on the Caesar Beasty. He will close it out. He will continue through. B will be eliminated.
Look at the villager count collapse. 26 vills before Beasty went to Imp, but we already talked about it. The eco, even with that little vills, he was up at what, 140, 150 eco. So it had not a care in the world about it.
And, you know, in ways that kind of done Beasty a favor, right? It just meant he could get more unharassed eco, because he just, every villager lost is an extra trade ship coming in. It's just absurd the way he played this. You know, players are starting to take note of just how powerful trade is. I remember Holy Island, games going late, and sometimes players coming back in because the player who had water control simply wasn't trading. Now that that's happening, you're getting kind of more an imperative outcome to the series, right? Where, you know, maybe there's a bounce back opportunity, but if we're 20 minutes in of you losing water control, right? If we're in the 40-minute game and for 20 minutes you haven't been on the seas, you probably have lost. Like, bar your opponent really screwing up, you're already out of that game.
Yeah, and that was where, I mean, that was just funny to see the graph now at the end. We knew Beasty was taking damage as far as the men-at-arms go. We knew that B was doing